Okay, good. It works, Brad. It works. So welcome everybody to our experiment. Let me take off this mask. How's everybody doing this morning? This feels weird, doesn't it? We're enjoying God's creation. Oh, mercy. Do mention to you, if you're here with us and got a bulletin, we've got a lot of inserts. We've got the two of the hymns, Are You Washed in the Blood and Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. There is a little advertisement about the North Carolina Missions Offering. Month of September is Missions Offering time. And it kind of shows you how the breakdown of the offering goes to the state convention. There's also an envelope for that as well. And if you'll look at the bulletin, a few other things to mention to you very quickly. We're taking up collections for the Baptist Children's Home as well. If you want to do a gift card for Food Line, Walmart, or Ingalls, see Barron for that. Or if you just want to send some money so they can buy gift cards, again, see Barron or me or the office about that. And today is an odd day as far as our worshiping together. But you know what? God honors our worship because it's not about us. It's not about our comfortability. It's about Him, isn't it? So as we worship outdoors today, y'all are worshiping at home with us. Maybe those are listening on the radio. Let's focus on Him. Not about how this is different. Not about how we're not in the sanctuary behind the stained glass. But we're out here enjoying God's creation because it's His. It's His. A few logistical things for you. Some of you are here that do notice the cameras, got the cones there. If you do leave the parking lot, try not to hit my truck. I'm parked over there blocking the way. And as far as offering goes, if you haven't turned in your offering already and you'd like to, we do have plates up here. Let Jim know. And Jim will try to get that from you. Get away from the speaker a little bit. So yeah. But this is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, right? So at this time we're going to have our song of praise, which is going to be Amazing Grace, right? Okay. Y'all should know that one.
Can we please all rise for Amazing Grace? Thank you. You may be seated.
We do have a lot of prayer concerns for our community. Most of y'all do know that Jim Lyles was laid to rest yesterday. So continue to pray for Gloria and the family. I think it was a beautiful service, a beautiful time of fellowship. It was good to see various members of the Lyles family, cousins, take pictures together, and everybody take pictures together. Chandra and I were talking last night. You know, it's sad that sometimes weddings and funerals are the only times sometimes families get together. So be in prayer for the Lyles family. Also be in prayer for Larry and Elizabeth Baker. I talked to Elizabeth yesterday, and Larry has had 9 straight days of fever. She's tested positive, and she's got a fever, so pray for them as they're on the mend, hopefully, or get toward being on the mend, excuse me. And talked to Daryl Curry earlier. He is Bill Brown's deacon, and he talked to Myra, and Myra said that Bill has tested negative for COVID, but he has pneumonia, and he's not in a good state. So pray strongly for Bill Brown. Pray for healing. And I talked to Joe this morning, and Kitty Brown is still in the hospital. She is stable as best I can tell, but pray for the Brown family. And I heard from Ken Harris last night. His father, Ted, passed away yesterday. So be in prayer for the Harris family. I don't know any arrangements yet. Whenever we hear arrangements, I'll send out a phone tree so that people will hear about that. Also lift up in prayer Mark Ferris. Mark went in the hospital this past week. He just got moved out of ICU yesterday. He had received, I think as of yesterday, he received 5 units of blood. They think they've got the bleeding stopped. He's stable. According to Laura, he's hoping to come home sometime early next week. But be in prayer for Mark and the Ferris family. And our secretary, Renee, asked us to add Wyatt Smith to the prayer list. That's her grandson. It's his first year of middle school. He's having some anxiety issues with the virus, and storms are triggering things, anxiety. And just being in middle school is not helping any at all. So pray for Wyatt as he adjusts to life. Also pray for H.L. Klein. That's Alva Jean's son-in-law's father. He's not doing well at all. He may not live much longer. So pray for him. Do you have any other prayer concerns that y'all know of? I'm missing something, I'm sure. Yes, ma'am.
Dad got moved back to the rehab.
Good. Harold Williamson got moved back to rehab. That's good.
He's in isolation.
It's isolation. Okay. Well, that's good. Yes, sir.
Linda and Brenda's sister, her daughters, that'd be her nieces.
Okay.
Her niece, sorry. She's tested positive.
Okay. How did your MRI go, Linda? Don't know yet. Still waiting. You'll probably find out after Labor Day, right?
I have another one of those.
I'm sorry. Her name is Darlene Haley.
Okay.
One more, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
My son's mother-in-law, they live in Texarkana, Texas. Her cancer is come back.
Okay, definitely pray for her. Okay. Well, and pray for, again, all those affected by the virus. That's why we're out here today, just an extra precaution, make sure everybody's safe. Do pray for Ursula. She was tested a few days ago. She won't know the result probably another day or two. She was feeling puny. I talked to her yesterday. She's having a hard time eating, keeping stuff down, got a fever. Big issues trying to stay hydrated, so pray for Ursula as well. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, this Labor Day weekend, we thank you for all those who have labored hard and those who continue to labor hard in this life. We thank you for all the hard work, Lord, that has made us a great country, made us a great people and a great church. Lord, we lift up all these prayer concerns we voiced today, especially those who've added today with Linda's niece and also their son-in-law's mother-in-law. We also lift up H.L. Klein. We lift up his family, the Lyles family. We pray for the Bakers, the Browns, the Ferrises, and we also pray for the Smiths, Lord. Also pray for Ursula as she is hopefully gets some good news of a negative COVID test. Lord, may your mercy and your peace be with all those that need a special touch. May your strength carry through those that need the strength, Lord. We pray for those who are traveling this holiday weekend. We pray for their safety and they'll return back home safely with us. Thank you so much, O Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Can we please all rise for Come Thou Font Every Blessing? Then we're going to do the doxology. Now we'll sing the doxology. Seated.
Okay, now somebody made a little smart aleck comment to me. I'm not naming any names, but I know where he lives. That this service wasn't going to be but 15 minutes. We're already 15 minutes into the service, so service is going to be more than that. Thank you. I ain't naming any names, but he lives near the church. I'm just saying. Calling him out. You know, I was talking to Brad this morning about what we could do. We had set up Friday, did a kind of a dry run. What we're going to do, we're going to set up over there next to the fence and have everybody kind of over there, but we figured the shade would work a little better. And I had one redneck idea. I was going to pull back my truck up and just stand in the back of my truck, but I figured I was a little too redneck. What do y'all think?
No, I like that.
Well, you know, it's too late now. I'd fall out. You're right. I'm too clumsy. I'd fall out. Yeah. Well, you can take the redneck out of Lincoln County, but you can't take the Lincoln County out of the redneck. Let's put it that way. There you go. It's been years since I've lived in Lincoln County, but I'm still a redneck at heart. Yes, sir. I have not been to a tent meeting, believe it or not. Never been to Rock Springs, none of those. Balls Creek, none of them. I'm not that fancy.
My grandmother used to take us all the time.
Well, good.
Sawdust on the ground.
Yeah. Well, we got leaves on the ground. There you go. We're going to look today at Romans chapter 12, and we're going to talk about community, and it's kind of ironic that we're talking about community because I've got two different sets of people in cars. I've got people spaced out, and then, of course, my family's sitting really close together in those chairs. Too good for the hard chairs, are you? Yeah, okay. But one of the things when I think about community, I think about the TV show Friends. Y'all ever seen the movie or TV show Friends? And my wife loves Friends. It's about a group of friends that live in New York City. And they live, most of them live in the same apartment building together, and they often rotate who lives with whom. But it's a show about these people that aired in the late 90s, early 2000s, very popular. In fact, there's a big hubbub here recently because Netflix was losing Friends to another streaming service. And people were giving up their Netflix subscription because Friends was going away. But Friends had a really big cultural impact in the sense that it shaped how we view family. Especially for my generation and younger, it has shaped, again, how we view the term family. I am not blood relation to anybody here except my wife. Well, my kids, I should say, they're blood. My wife and I aren't blood. We're just married. But I'm not blood relation to anybody here as best I can tell. But we're still family, aren't we? Right? You see, in the TV show Friends, these people, the only two who were related were Ross and Monica, right, dear? The rest of them were not related whatsoever, but they were thicker than thieves. They watched out for each other. They cared for each other. They sometimes dated each other. They were there for the bad hookups, the dodgy relationships, the bad career moves, the weddings, the divorces, the babies, the parental fallouts. These 6 friends, they were paired together, and they were family. We as Christians are a family. We're not united by human blood, but we're united by the blood of Christ. The question is, how are we supposed to act like family? Even though we're bound by the blood of Jesus, how are we supposed to behave? And that's one of the questions that Paul answers in this chapter, Romans chapter 12, verses 9 through 21. He wrestles with this notion of how do we relate to each other as Christians, but also importantly, how do we as the family of God relate to this greater community? One of the good things about doing this sermon and this passage out in here is we look at our neighbors across the road over there and look at these houses. These are the people that we need to show Jesus to if they don't already know Jesus. Maybe some bridges have been burned by the church in the past by some of our neighbors. We need to mend those bridges. How are we to do that? We look at Romans chapter 12, and we're going to talk about, and Brad, I'm looking at the second slide here, and it didn't print on my copy. We're going to look at how do we live in community together? How do we live as Christians? And Paul writes in the first few verses here, verses 9 through 11, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. I'm looking over verse 12 now. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. There are several different little commands that Paul gives here and how we are to relate to each other as Christian individuals. Now, every one of you here I know has a family, and you may or may not have good relations with your family, but I bet you every family that's represented here has dysfunction, right? Everybody has some sort of quirk about their family that ain't quite right. We joke around about some of the dysfunctions in my family, and my wife's family has dysfunctions as well. And to be honest with you, I think it's a contest sometimes whose family's nuttier, whose family's crazier. And I'm sure y'all have people in your family as well that to have that contest going on who's crazier in the family. But how do we relate to each other? Well, Paul says, as the family of God, we are to relate to each other with love. Let love be sincere. Don't just dial it in. You ever heard the word hypocrite? How many here is a hypocrite? Raise your hand. Y'all a bunch of liars. You're all hypocrites at some point or other, right? You know where that term hypocrite comes from? Well, back in ancient Greece, a single actor played several roles. That actor, you wouldn't see the actor's face. They would wear a mask. I don't know if you've ever seen those masks. Sometimes you'll see it in logos for arts. You'll see a mask with a smile and a mask with a frowny face. The actor would change roles or change expressions by changing a mask. Inside, the actor may be happy, but the mask outside would be something sad or sorrowful. You see, that was the hypocrite. You see, we are to let our love be sincere. We're not to have love that is hypocritical, that is, on the outside we pretend to love each other, but we don't do it. We're not to have love that is staged. This is not some sort of role that we're playing. Our love is supposed to be sincere. We're not just supposed to dial it in. We're to honestly care about each other. Here lately, I've seen some acts of love for, especially our church family, of some of those being tested positive for COVID, not being able to get out or get a good hot meal, and people delivering in the church, delivering meals to those individuals. That's love. Love was tangible yesterday in our activity building as the family of Jim Lyles gathered together and food was served each other and good stories were shared. And I found out, and I got to share this as an anecdote, I found out at one point one of Mr. Lyles' grandkids tried to sell the other grandkids to somebody else when they were little. You know, that's funny, but those types of stories being shared, those memories, a type of love being spilled, not just within the Lyles family, but amongst other family members, the church family, the family of God. We are to let our love be sincere. You know, in our society today, we use that word love a lot. And y'all can tell I love food, right? I love cake. I joke around my wife sometimes that she loves cake more than she loves me, as she plays on her phone. But we use that word love a lot. And even people in relationships will use that word love almost as though it means nothing. But love for us Christians has been, we have a tangible example in the sense that Jesus Christ died on the cross for us. He sacrificed of himself for us to make us whole with God. He gave of himself for others. And that's the type of love that we should have that is sincere, that is a love that is giving to others. As Paul says, to be devoted to one another in love. In fact, Paul uses that term in the Greek Philadelphia, Philadelphos. Brotherly love, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. You see, we are to have a family type of love for each other. A love that is like a parent and a child, like a brother and a sister, where we, even though we may have dysfunction, even though we may be angry at someone, we may not have the best relationship, we need to sometimes bite our tongue, swallow our pride, and do what's best for them. We're to be devoted to one another in love. But Paul also notes that we need to honor each other. You see, we need to remember that our neighbor, our fellow Christian, even those surrounding our church here, they're individuals that Jesus Christ died for. That even though we may not view them as important, in God's eyes they are important. See, I love you all whether you tithe the biggest check ever or whether you don't tithe at all. I still love you whether you're mean to me, talk about me behind my back, or you say great things about me. That's what we're supposed to do as Christians. To love one another, to honor one another. You see, we should be, just as the rule of St. Benedict, the great founder of the Benedictine monks once said, we're to receive strangers as Christ. We're to treat each other as though we see a glimpse of Jesus Christ in each and every one of us, even those that aren't saved, even those that aren't Christians. We're to treat those as though they were Jesus himself. To love them, to care for them, and to honor them, and to be respectful of them. You know, that's a message we need to hear these days, isn't it? Hopefully y'all read the newsletter and my little 2 cents about the political race and name-calling, the bickering. I don't care if you have a D beside your name or your registration or an R beside your name. You're somebody that Jesus Christ loves. You're my brother and you're my sister. Whether you're a brother or sister of Christ or you're a fellow human being, we need to treat each other with love and respect and with honor. We need to respect those that are different from us. Even those people that bless their hearts, they're the dumbest people in the world. We might want to call them idiots. Might want to, see if they've got a brain inside that head. We're still to love them and to care for them. Paul also mentions that we need to be zealous in serving the Lord. He says some things we often forget that being zealous part, don't we? We get in a rut, don't we? Things become second nature. One of the good things about us meeting outside today is this is breaking up the monotony, isn't it? Oh, you know the monotony. You know what it is, don't you? You go sit in your same pew every Sunday. Or in this case, maybe if you're at home watching, you sit in your same spot in the living room, or maybe you're laying in the bed watching the service, but you get in a routine, and it becomes second nature. Or you get in emotions of, well, we do this on every fifth Sunday, or we do this every first Sunday, or this is what we do when this happens. You get that routine. And maybe after a while, the routine takes over, and our desire to serve God wanes a little bit. Our zeal dies. Our fire in our hearts for God dies just a little bit more. But Paul encourages us to be zealous in serving the Lord. To kindle the fire within ourselves, to kindle the fire within each and every other one of us here, to make sure that we are still on fire for God, that we want to serve Him, we want to worship Him, but not only that, but we want to help others come to know Him. We need to have that zeal in our life. You know, the big controversy amongst Panthers football is that the Charlotte Panthers, for the first game, won't have fans in the stands. I don't know if you've ever been to a Panthers game. They're a sight. I've had the pleasure of going to a few games, and there are some interesting people at Panthers games. There's people that face paint. There's people with do the blue wigs and the jerseys abundance, and it's interesting. I've seen pictures on TV of people at games in Buffalo, New York, or Green Bay, Wisconsin, and in snow on the ground, and these people have no shirts on. They're painted with Green Bay colors. They're zealous for their team. But we as Christians, are we zealous for Jesus? Do we have that fire inside of us? We need to recapture that fire. We need to be zealous fans for Jesus. You know, the word fan comes from the word fanatic, being fanatical. We need to be fanatical for Jesus. But not only individually, but we need to make sure that we as a community help each other to keep that fire going, to be fanatical for Jesus. You see, the real enemy of zeal is not opposition. It's that complacency. It's that routine. That's that mundane everyday. You see, Revelation 3:15 talks about neither hot nor cold. Hot is serviceable. Cold is serviceable. But that lukewarm doesn't do you hardly any good. God wants you to be hot or cold in the sense that you're usable. He doesn't want you to be complacent. He doesn't want you to be blah. He wants you to be on fire for Him. So kindle that within each other and kindle that with the other. We're to be patient in affliction. You see, we face trials all the time as Christians. We're to hold each other up, but we also need to be patient in the midst of our trials as well. It also plays in this next notion here Paul mentions, being faithful in prayer. We need to lift each other up in prayer. To walk alongside those that are hurting, walk alongside those that need God in their life, and to be that one shoulder to cry on. Best way to put it, be like Job's friends when they first get there. You know the story from Job. When they first get there, they don't say a thing. They sit with Job and they grieve with him. We need to be like that. To be faithful in prayer, to be patient in affliction and trials, to be with those that need it most, and to have those around us to support each other. You see, the good thing about family a lot of times is family looks out for family, especially if the family's functioning correctly. And we as a church family, if we're functioning correctly, should look out for each other. As we face trials in life, as we face afflictions and tests, we should be there in the midst of affliction for each other and faithful in prayer. And Paul also mentions that we need to to contribute, to share with those in need. Acts 2:44-45 says, all believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. You see, this notion of hospitality here is kindness to strangers. And it complements that notion of kindness and brotherhood in verse 10. We as a church family need to be kind to each other and those that are hurting with each other. You see, the early church in the book of Acts is that prime example. I read that in Acts chapter 2. If anybody needed anything, they helped each other out. It wasn't about the selfishness of the me. It wasn't about the abundance. We talked about Wednesday night about this a little bit. Think about how much money Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, is worth. This man is worth billions upon billions of dollars. If he could just live off maybe 1 or 2 million a year, how much of his wealth could help out those who need it most? Then you think about the story of the widow's mite in the Gospels, who she gave to God all that she had. And some of that that offering went to benevolence. But she gave willingly to help those who need it. Help God, help the priest. One of the great things about this town is the Dallas High Shoals ministry. And if you haven't volunteered at the ministry, if you got you a Tuesday morning or a Thursday morning free, or at least an hour or two, contact them down there. They'd love to have you help out. It is a great experience. You will work hard, but it's a great experience serving others. There's a great need. In fact, I talked to one of the workers Tuesday. I was down at the Country Kitchen eating lunch with George Ryan from Antioch Lutheran, and one of the ladies came in. I said, I saw y'all were busy today, and she said, we serve 200 families. Not 200 individuals, mind you, 200 families. And it's simple, basic food. Because the economy's bad, because many people are down on their luck. Now, there are a few slivers of people that probably could work, and they probably have a job, and we make all these excuses, but there's a lot of people who need it. So we as a church family should work together to help. And I'm thankful to all of y'all that help out with the Dallas High Shoals ministry in many various ways. But it's humbling and it's refreshing, I think, to volunteer. So if you get a chance, volunteer, but we need to contribute and help out each other. Moving on in our passage, think about this. This is the slide about relations with the world, is that we as Christians, we need to get our house in order straight first, right? We need to live like the family of God first, but how do we live as the family of God amongst this world? We often malign this world as being evil and wicked, and the devil's on every corner, but how do we live in relation to this world? You see, our world is not a utopia. This is not some classless society where everybody's prosperous. This is not some glorious socialist state, mind you, as some may define it today in the political world today, but we live in a world of double standards. We live in a world of success and failure. We live in a world of friend and foe, life and death, hostility, inhospitability. We live in a world that is broken. So how do we as Christians relate to this world? How do we as the family of God relate to this world? Well, Paul answers that question looking at verse 14 of Romans chapter 12, reading 14 through 16. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud. And be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Moving on to verse 17. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in everyone's eyes, or the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Moving on to verse 20. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome with good. How do we live in this broken world? How do we live in this world that's often characterized as being wicked? We live as Christians, don't we? We live as those who follow Jesus Christ, who love as Jesus Christ loves. We bless and not curse. It's angry. It's easy to get angry, isn't it? I've got a temper on me. You can ask my youngins. I holler at them every now and then, get a little angry at them. But I get frustrated out in traffic. You can ask my boys how I get a little angry, especially driving in Charlotte sometimes. I may say a bad word or two to those driving around me. It's like I often joke around, if you pray for patience, don't drive in Charlotte during race week. God will give you patience, or at least try to teach you patience. Right? We're to bless those and not curse those. You see, we need to be of a mindset of not so easily fly off the handle with others that aren't doing what they're supposed to do. You know, I worked for too long in the service industry, in the grocery store, and it's amazing how people who proclaim to be Christian, when they're dealing with service industry folks, don't act like they're Christian. Now, you can see some of the real Christian people. I could talk about Mr. Howard. Wayne Howard's not here today. Wayne was one of my customers in Boger City at the Harris Teeter and also Denver at the Harris Teeter. And you talk about seeing the Christian life lived. That man is kind to you, gentle to you, ask how you're doing. And even when he was able to walk around a little better, he would actually get carts out of the parking lot for us at the Harris Teeter so we wouldn't have to go outside in the heat. That's something else. You see, that's living the Christian life. That's a blessing, not cursing. That's not flying off the handle and getting angry at those that are maybe disagreeing with us or being indifferent with us or doing something to irk us. We need to empathize with those around us. Paul writes, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. One of the biggest problems and failures in our society today, I think, is this fact that we can't empathize with each other. We're too busy pointing fingers at the other person, pointing fingers saying, you, whatever category that's different than me, I'm going to point my finger at you and call you something else. Black lives matter. Blue lives matter. You know, white, black, rich, poor, Republican, Democrat. We point fingers at each other, but we don't take 5 seconds to walk in the shoes of the other person. I don't know what it's like to be a black man in America. I don't know what it's like to be a cop in America. I have been a Republican, I have been a Democrat, and I kind of understand a little bit. And I try my best to understand both points of view. I try my best to, as the old saying says, to walk a mile in somebody's moccasins. Because you know what? Once you do that, once you try to at least put yourself in that person's mind, put yourself in that person's shoes for just a little bit, some of that pride, some of that anger that we may experience, we may have to chew that back a little bit. We may have to swallow that pride just a little bit more. Because we realize that we're not always in the right, are we? Since I've been talking about my family a good bit, you know, God has a sense of humor. He put two hard-headed people together, and we've been married almost 15 years come December. I'm always right, and my wife is always right. But sometimes we have to break down and compromise, don't we? That's the thing that we need to do is this world, as a society, we as Christians need to be the exemplars for this world around us on how to be empathetic, to how to compromise, how to understand the other person's point of view and not so quickly point a finger and not so quickly condemn. We need to mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice. We also need to not be proud, but not be high-minded, as Paul talks about here. You know, our world today, there's so many people out in this world today that are so full of themselves. We as Christians should be the opposite of that. We should be the ones who are humble and meek. Blessed are the poor in spirit, Jesus tells us. We should mirror that example for our society today. In a world where everybody's looking for their 15 minutes or even their 5 seconds of fame, we should be the ones promoting humility and meekness and not high-mindedness. You know, if you need an example of people who are full of themselves and high-minded, look at social media. We live in a society of selfies. Instagram used to be hugely popular. It's waning a little bit. One of the biggest fads is TikTok. I don't know if you heard about TikTok trying to be purchased from a Chinese owner. But TikTok is one of those big things in our society. People doing dance videos and little videos and stuff, just having themselves out there. They're 5 seconds of fame. And the funny thing is, my boys love watching stuff on YouTube, and I do too, but there are people who have become famous for being YouTube personalities. They make videos of themselves, put out on this free streaming service, and become famous for it. We live in a world of self-obsession. But that's not the Christian way, is it? We shouldn't be self-absorbed. We shouldn't be high-minded. We need to be humble. And this world needs to see that in us. You see that humility of Jesus in us. See, sadly, Paul says not to repay evil for evil. It happens a lot in our society. Retaliation. You did something bad to me, I'm going to do it back to you. You hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. And even scarier thing is, some of God's own people do the same thing. We forget the words of Jesus to turn the other cheek, don't we? To be humble and not retaliate. For Paul tells us we need to be at peace with all. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. You know, I didn't get to know Jim Lyles until after his body and his mind had started failing a little bit. But just listening to people in the church and people in the community, people in the family tell stories that he was a pretty even-keeled fellow from what I understand. Never really got too angry with people. That's the type of reputation we need as Christian people. And I've got a temper on me, trust me, I do. We need to be known as people who are peaceable. They're not easily angered, that live at peace with each other. That don't try to start fights, but try to be the peacemaker, giving an olive branch over to the other, even when we're in disagreement. We don't need to be like some of the politicians getting on TV and calling names and stoking the flames, and it happens to Republicans and Democrats too. Nobody's perfect. If you can find a perfect politician, you're in fantasy land. It's like you can't find a perfect family. They all live in fantasy land. Paul even goes on to talk about verses 19 and 20. Do not avenge yourselves. You know, all these things that Paul lists in these few verses here about not cursing and not being high-minded, retaliating and avenging. These are things that the world loves. It's all about the me, isn't it? But we as Christians should realize it's not about the me, it's about the him. It's about the him. It's not about what we want. It's not about what I want. It's not about necessarily what we want. It's about what he wants. And that's something we need to convey to this world, that this something that's outside of ourselves, that's bigger than ourselves. Because this world is full of itself. There's many in this community who are lost, who are full of themselves, whether they want to admit it or not. And even some of the proudest would love to say, you know, I do pretty good on my own. I don't think I need God. You may have heard that before in various ways. We need to show them it's not about us, it's about him. And Paul writes, closing verse 21, that we need to not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So the best way for us as Christians to live, as Christians in the community, is to be that witness in the community. Not to give in, to give up, but to be the humble, empathetic, loving, caring people that we need to be, that we're called to be. To show our neighbors that we love them and care for them. To show our family members who are lost that we love and care for them. But not only that, but get our house in order too, to live as Christian people with each other in this community. And Brad, I'm looking at the last slide. It says, I'll be there for you. That's one of the theme song for Friends was written by a band called the Rembrandts. And that line, I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. I'll be there for you. We as Christians, as the family of God, need to be there for each other. But also importantly, we need to be there for those around us. Living the Christian example for them. Rescue the perishing and caring for the dying. Loving the lost. Loving those who are unlovable. Walking a mile in their shoes to try to understand a little bit better. And being Jesus to those who need Jesus the most. How's the old hymn go? Let others see Jesus in you. We need to do that. We need to think about friends. We're bound by the blood of Christ as family. We need to be there for each other. We need to be there for the lost. In a moment, we're going to have a moment of invitation. If you'd like to come forward and pray, feel free to do so. But we'll be singing, Are You Washed in the Blood? Or as I joked around with Renee this week, she should put an R in there. It's Are You Washed in the Blood, right? Okay.
Can we please all rise for number 136? Are you washed in the blood?